Hey Wolfpack, and welcome back. How was your week? Today, we're reading I Found a Non-Existing Town While Driving a Drop-Off Job, written by OrangeHerbalTea. And with that said, whether you're sitting around a campfire, or on the night shift, or even laying in bed, let my voice soothe your nightmares. I'm not one to usually tell stories about this kind of thing, but I just can't get this out of my head. I work for a supply company. My usual jobs include driving down to different stores and locations to drop off shipments and basically whatever else I'm assigned. Those of you who have done supply jobs know how it goes. I'll often have to make long trips to get to the requested location, and usually I can't afford to take many breaks. That means long hours of constant driving. Usually, I don't get bothered by them. You learn over the years that the rustle in the woods is more likely to be a bear or a deer than some sort of demon, and the scary silhouette you see on the side of the road is really just some guy wanting a ride. I've seen it all. Even the long nights aren't very bad, because I'll always see other cars. I've got plenty of good music, and I found the time behind the wheel and the trees flying by somewhat relaxing. This drop-off was a few months ago for a small business in the southern area of South Dakota. I had to drive through Iowa to get there, which called for a night of long driving past fields and small towns. Nothing I haven't seen before, so I wasn't particularly wary when I headed out. About halfway through the trip, the sun started to set. Again, I'm used to driving through the dark of the night. I don't have much of a problem with it, but that night was different somehow. No matter how far I drove, my GPS wouldn't move. It kept saying I was staying in one place even though I was continuously moving. Now, it was the middle of the night in a pretty secluded part of the state, so I ignored my paranoia and chalked it up to poor signal. When my radio started malfunctioning, I ignored that too. Keep in mind, I always see other cars on my runs, usually other trucks at this time of the night. But there was no one else but me on the road. I'll admit, I started to get a little uneasy here, but I figured I would be out of the state soon enough, and that it was just too late for anyone else to be out. I knew the roads in the area well enough to find my way even if the GPS wasn't working properly, so I just kept going. I was aimed to make it by my location in the morning. At this point, I started seeing the signs, billboards advertising some town I'd never even heard of. It was weird enough to have a billboard in the middle of nowhere, but I assumed it was just poor placement. Or maybe more people came here than I thought. I just kept on driving. It wasn't until the third and then fourth sign advertising the same exact town that I started to get a little curious. They never said where the place was. All of them had the same large block letter spelling out Cherry Peak, not saying welcome to Cherry Peak, just having weird messages like give us a visit or come on down. After I passed the fifth sign, the clock on my truck started to glitch out a bit. It kept going crazy, blipping through different numbers. It was weird, and at that point, I was starting to feel really creeped out. But I kept going because I knew based on the timing of the trip, I should be out of the area soon. Then, I saw something. It looked like a town, but there was nothing else for miles before it. I just figured that I was finally out of that creepy area from before. But then, what must have been only a few miles past that, I saw another town, and I was moving so fast by it, but I could have sworn that the buildings looked identical to the first town I just passed. Again, stupidly, I just brushed it off as coincidence, or my eyes playing tricks in the darkness. Some time passed, and I kept driving straight. In the distance off to my right, I saw another town. When I started to get close to it, my blood ran cold as I realized that it had the same exact buildings as the other two. When I say that, I mean everything in the town was in the exact same place as the other ones. It looked like an exact copy. I wanted to keep driving past it, figured I'd be able to pass it up and never think about it again. But then, my GPS came to life and signaled for me to turn right, directly towards the town. I could see an old road bending around it, so I assumed it was just a shortcut to where I needed to be faster. And, just my luck. As I turned onto the road and got closer to the faded buildings scattered around the town, I noticed a looming sign, "Welcome to Cherry Peak." The mysterious town from the billboards. It didn't look like somewhere that should be advertised, or even somewhere that had enough money to advertise. It just looked like a normal, abandoned town, somewhere that no one had lived for ages. But as I got closer, I noticed that there were lights on in some of the houses, and in a small store behind them. There were people there, even though the town looked like it was falling apart. I couldn't help myself at that point. Of course, I was absolutely terrified, but I also felt like I needed to investigate the place. Plus, I was running low on snacks and the store looked welcoming enough. When I got out of my truck, I was met with silence, like complete silence. Nobody was making any type of noise whatsoever. I couldn't even hear the wind blowing. It was late in the night, but usually someone has their television on or something. It felt like walking into a crypt. The store was a welcoming relief when there was music playing. It was some weird, old-sounding jazz tune, but it was nice enough. I got what I needed and spent some time just looking around the store. The shelves were all rusted, and the floor was honestly pretty dirty. It looked like no one had been there in a long time, but I checked the expiration dates on everything, and it looked like they all had just restocked recently. I assumed they just must not clean up a lot. Not the best way to run a business, but hey, who am I to judge? I saw a keychain that said simply, Cherry Peak, hanging on one side of the hooks. It was stupid, but I figured I might as well have something from coming there. I grabbed it and some food. When I made it to the checkout, the cashier sent chills down my spine. She wouldn't stop smiling no matter what. Just this creepy, constant smile, even while speaking. Her eyes appeared genuinely dead, but her smile never stopped. I got out of there as quickly as possible after that. And outside, there was music. Creepy, old, slow carnival music. It was an unwelcome change to the silence from earlier. It sounded almost like the town noticed how uneasy I felt without any noise, and tried to make it sound more welcoming, I guess. More of the lights were on, and I could see silhouettes of people in the windows. It looked more like a normal town, but that made it feel even creepier because it hadn't been like that a few minutes before, and it was the middle of the night. The music didn't seem to come from anywhere. No matter where I went, it was the same volume. It didn't get louder, didn't get softer. It was like it came from everywhere at once. I don't get scared easily, but at this point, I have to admit, I was shaking a bit. If anything, just for the strangeness of it all. I started to regret coming to the town in the first place. Everything seemed artificial and fake, and it was starting to get late. So, I used that as an excuse to myself to hurry back into my truck and start off. Once I started to drive away, the town faded in my mirrors until it was completely gone. I could have sworn I saw someone or something waving at me, but I just drove faster to get the hell out of there. I finished the trip and dropped off my shipment, but I just couldn't stop thinking about that place. When I went home, the first thing I did was look it up. There wasn't a single result for a place called Cherry Peak. I tried again, things like Cherry Peak Town or Cherry Peak, Iowa, but nothing worked. It was like the place didn't exist. I had another delivery through Iowa yesterday, and I decided, out of morbid curiosity if nothing else, to try to find that town again. I went down the exact same streets. In fact, it felt like I checked every street. Nothing was there. No billboards, no towns, no nothing. I still don't know what happened or where that town came from. So, if anyone has any ideas, please let me know. The keychain's hanging on my bag right now, so I know it wasn't a dream. If anyone has heard of a town called Cherry Peak in Iowa, please let me know. I don't know what happened that day. Thanks for listening, Wolfpack. If you want to submit your own story, the links for my email and subreddit will be down below. I've also created a Discord, so if you want to join that, the link will be in the description down below as well. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And with that said, have beautiful nightmares, and I will see you next time.